Thank you and congratulations on taking German seriously. Together we'll learn the entire A1 level in German. At the end of this course, you'll have a solid foundation in German and you'll be able to hold basic conversations with Germans. In the next video, I'll show you how to best use the course to get the most out of it. My name is Martin and I'll see you in the next video. How to use this course. So learning a new language is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're serious about learning German, you're here for the long run. Try to study regularly, as often as you can. Studying, like 5 or 6 times a week for 20 minutes is way better than studying once a week for, let's say, 2 hours. Rome wasn't built in one day either, right? Learning German takes time and is definitely not an easy thing to do. But if thousands of people before you have reached their goals with me, you can do so as well. Just keep going, don't give up, even if things seem hard and confusing, especially at the beginning. Our course is structured in sections which consists of around 10 lectures. Since our method is immersive, each section starts with a dialogue or a text which you will listen to first. Now it's perfectly normal that you'll probably feel totally overwhelmed at first and that you will probably understand nothing at all or maybe a small portion of the text. At this stage, just relax and simply listen and focus on the new sounds of the words. Listen to it at least once before moving on to the next lecture. Maybe even 2, 3, 4 times. The more, the better. In this next lecture, I will guide you through the text and provide you with in-depth explanations on all new concepts like new words, grammar forms, pronunciation, and much more. This will give you a clear understanding of the text and what it means. At this stage, feel free to listen to the text again and you'll be surprised at how much you can understand this time. After the text analysis, we'll readdress all important new aspects in a detailed way. New verbs, grammatical structures, topic-specific vocab, and much more. In the last 2 videos of each section, we'll then recap on the most important new subject matter and you can practice your new skills in our exercise lecture. These interactive parts of this course are vital to further activate your new skills, to take them from the passive level of understanding to the active level of actually applying them, preparing yourself for real-life situations. These can be also really difficult the first time you are doing them. You'll definitely not expect it to get 100% right. That's close to impossible. Just see how much you can remember, see it as another revision method, and you can come back to the exercises in a couple of days or weeks. And the second, third, fourth time that you will do them, you will be much better and they will be much easier. I promise. After every 5 sections, the next section will be an exercise deep dive dedicated to activating your new knowledge acquired in all the previous sections. Don't skip these sections as they will definitely help you internalize the new material as well as understand which topics you should review again. Again, the first time you'll do them, they will be probably quite challenging. Continue learning with our course and come back to them once in a while and you'll see how what was previously very challenging will be then much easier. Speaking of review, this is absolutely vital and there's already lots of generic review in our course implemented in a natural way. On top of that, you can and should always jump back to older lessons and re-listen to the dialogues, redo the exercises, etc. This is how the material that used to be very challenging will become easier and easier before you know it. Hey guys, let's take a look at some useful online resources in this video. You don't actually have to use these when studying with our course, because I will tell you everything you need to know, the meaning of words and sentences, the gender, the plural forms, but you might still want to use these resources now and then, and maybe you might start using them more intensively after finishing this course. So let's start with some online dictionaries. We have Collins first, and we also have Leo, we have Pons, and we have Lingue. Now there is no best dictionary, they all have strengths and weaknesses. Let me just show you. So let's take a look at Collins now. It's a super powerful, maybe the best dictionary in the list. And you have to make sure that you select the right direction here. So now we're in the tab English to German. We cannot find a German word now. To do that, we have to change the tab. So here we can only type English words. House, for example. We get the translation. It's house in German. And NT, this stands for neutral. So it's a neutral noun. We get some information here and lots of useful phrases and translations. If we change the tab here, we select German to English now. Now we can type German words. I was going to select house actually. So house, basic word. Again, NT stands for neutral, so it's a neutral noun. Das Haus, and then for the plural form, die Häuser. And that's all you have to know for the A1 course. You can ignore genitive or other forms for now. Pronunciation might also be useful. You can listen to that by clicking on this little icon here. And again, lots of useful translations and phrases. For example, war nicht im Haus, sondern im Garten. He wasn't indoors, but in the garden. If we type a verb like sehen, which is of course to see, then again we have lots of phrases and sentences here, but we have also the tab conjugations here, and we get all the verb forms. Most of those you don't need right now in the A1 course, but the present tense is useful and important. Ich sehe, du siehst, and so on. So very useful for looking up verb conjugations as well. So the next dictionary is Leo. It's not quite as professional, but it's still very useful. And here we can type both English and German words. Let's put house, and we get some phrases again, and not as many examples. But the strength of this one is if you want to look for a word you cannot find in Collins, then this is a good option. Here we have huge lists of also, infrequent words and very technical terms, which you won't need probably for the A1 level. So here we have the noun, das Haus, plural, die Häuser. And if you mouse over a row here, or if you click, the left-hand side changes some extra information. But actually, das Haus, the gender is neutral, das, and the plural form, die Häuser, that's all you need, I guess, for now. The next dictionary is Pons. So here you can also enter phrases or sentences or even texts, but let's put a verb for now. Let's put lesen, to read, and we get translations here. Etwas lesen, to read something. This is the main translation, and then some phrases as well. So that's all very useful. We also have a verb table. If we click on that, you can again get the conjugation of this verb, and that's very useful. You need the presence for now most of the time. Maybe also the perfect tense, the past tense. Ich habe gelesen, I read something. So the biggest advantage here is English might not be your native language. You can also use it, for German, Greek, German, French, German, Italian, and so on. If you prefer that, that would be a good option. The next dictionary is Lingue, and the autocomplete is very nice here. Let's type conversation. We get lots of suggestions already. Okay, and then we get the main translation, Gespräch, often used. It's neutral, NT, and we get lots of phrases and sentences. So this is more of an advanced dictionary, actually. And below we get lots of real-life examples from documents, from websites, etc. Alright, so this concludes the dictionaries section. Then we also have a tool for grammar, and that's Verbformen. Let's take a look. So this is verbformen.com. We can just type a verb in here. Let's put sprechen, which is to speak. We also get the translations here, and we get the verb forms here, present tense, Präteritum, and perfect past tense. And more details below, we get the present tense, which is, I guess, most important for you at this stage. Ich spreche, du sprichst, so it's irregular, spricht, and so on and so on. The name is Verbformen, so verb forms, but we also can look up nouns here. We have a neutral noun here. It says neutral. We get the article das, so das Haus, and this is the plural, das Haus, die Häuser. That's also useful for nouns. Das Haus, plural is die Häuser, and here are all the other cases. Alright, and last but not least, I want to show you a translation tool, and it's called DeepL. So it has a website. The tool also has a desktop version, by the way. You can just type in English or your native language, and it'll translate your text to German. And it works pretty well. It almost feels like cheating. So let's put the man is playing football and is already very tired. Der Mann spielt gerade Fußball und ist schon sehr müde. That's pretty good. So you can also use that tool, and it normally doesn't make mistakes. If you click a word, you can also find alternatives. You can do it the other way around by typing something in German. Let's change it a bit. Die Frau spielt gerade Volleyball. And again, by clicking on a word, we can get alternatives. Is currently playing, and so on. So DeepL is also very useful, and you can find all the links in the PDF that you can download as well. Hey guys, and welcome to the very first lesson of our A1 German course. In this lesson, the title is Eine neue Nachbarin, which translates to a new neighbor. And this is what you will learn. You learn how to say basic things like hello and bye in German. You learn how to welcome and thank someone. You learn how to ask basic questions like where are you from or what's your name. We'll cover the personal pronouns I, you, and also he, she, it, so the first, second, and third person singular. And we'll cover two very basic verbs, kommen and heißen. And then we'll look at some very basic rules for word order in German.
Eine neue Nachbarin.
Hallo, ich heiße Theo. Wie heißt du?
Hallo, ich heiße Stefanie.
Woher kommst du?
Ich komme aus Österreich, aus Wien.
Willkommen in Hamburg.
Vielen Dank und bis bald.
Tschüss.
So, how was this very first dialogue for you? If you're completely new to German, which you might be, then I'm sure it was completely overwhelming and you didn't understand anything, or almost anything. Even if that's the case, please don't worry, trust the process, and also trust our methods and trust my experience. I've been doing this for many, many years. Very soon, these same sentences, these same forms will seem even very easy to you. Now, we will now take a look at the dialogue and we'll translate and analyze it together. And at the end, things will make much more sense. Eine neue Nachbarin. This translates to a new neighbor. Please note that Nachbarin is the feminine form, so it's a female neighbor. More on these forms very soon. In the first line, Theo says, Hallo, ich heiße Theo. Wie heißt du? Hello, my name is Theo. What's your name? So the ich, you might have seen before, is the English translation is I. It's the first person singular pronoun. So ich heiße Theo. My name is Theo. Heißen we'll cover in a bit, and it's used for saying what your name is, basically. Now, ich, like I just said, is the personal pronoun for the first person singular, I. Du is the form for the second person singular pronoun. So ich, I. Du, you. All of this will be covered in more detail also very soon. Then, wie heißt du? Now, wie is our first question word. It actually translates to how, like how are you, how's the weather today, how was your holiday, etc. So it translates to how. So in this sentence, literally, how are you called or how is your name? In English, you would say what's your name, of course, but literally the wie, our first question word, is how in English. And heißen, in this verb that is used for saying someone's name, you might see this strange little letter. If this is completely new to you, don't worry, we have a couple of special letters or special characters that you might not have in your own language. This is called SZ or scharf S. It resembles a B, but it's not a B, it's more like an S. So whenever you see that, you can treat it like an S or like a double S even. So here, ich heiße. Wie heißt du? In the second line, Stephanie, the woman, the girl, Stephanie replies, Hallo, ich heiße Stephanie. So they are basically two people meeting for the first time because Stephanie is the new neighbor. She just moved to Hamburg, like we'll see in a second. So, hallo, ich heiße Stephanie. Hello, my name is Stephanie. In the third line, Theo says, Woher kommst du? Now, woher is our second question word, and it translates to where ... from. So in English, it's two words, where from. In German, it's only one word. Woher kommst du? Where are you from? Stephanie replies, Ich komme aus Österreich, aus Wien. So, I want to give you the most important rule now for German word order. We'll come back to this rule many, many times, and it's the most important rule of German syntax. It's in main clauses. The verb will always be on the second position, at least in statement clauses. Don't worry about this. Memorize this. The main rule is verb equals second position. Here you get the ich first, that's the subject, I come, and the verb komme comes on the second position. It's not always like this in English, but it's always like this in German. Unless it's a question or a subclause, which we'll cover later on. So, ich komme aus Österreich, aus Wien. I'm from Austria, from Vienna. Literally, I come from Austria, from Vienna. Aus is what we call prepositions, and this translates to from. Again, I'm from Austria, I'm from Vienna. And aus, you can use this preposition with a country, aus Österreich, aus China, aus Japan, or with a city, from Vienna, from Paris, from London, etc. Let's move on to the second page. Theo then says, Willkommen in Hamburg, which is welcome in Hamburg, or welcome to Hamburg. The Willkommen is close enough to the English word. You will not have problems remembering the meaning, I'm sure. And you can use it with cities, like here, Willkommen in Hamburg, but also you can use it with countries, like Willkommen in Deutschland. Okay, Stephanie then says vielen Dank und bis bald. Many thanks and until soon, literally, or see you soon. So the bis is until, the bald is soon. And don't worry, you don't have to memorize all these words right now. They will come up again and again and again, and at some point you will know them without even realizing that you learned them. There are some alternatives for vielen Dank. You might have heard these before. Danke is one of them, or Danke schön would be another alternative to vielen Dank. In the last line, Theo then says Tschüss, which is an informal way of saying bye or goodbye to someone. And that's the first dialogue. I'm sure this makes much more sense now. You can also watch this analysis several times, of course. You can also go back to the dialogue now and listen to that again. And this is how languages can be learned in the easiest way, by reviewing, by revising as much as possible. I'll see you soon in the next lecture. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where we will talk about our first verb in detail. We'll talk about the verb kommen. Now that's the sentence we saw in the dialogue. Ich komme aus Österreich, aus Wien, which translates to I come from, or I am from Austria, from Vienna. So let's take a look at the verb on the second position, like always. It's kommen. Kommen is the infinitive. Infinitives are the base forms of verbs. It's like in English to do, to come, to sleep, to work, etc. That's the form that you would look up in a dictionary. That's the form that you would find on a list, etc. But if you want to use it within a sentence, with a subject, I come, you come, my brother comes, then we need to do something, and that's conjugation. We need to conjugate the verb. And that's what we'll do now in a second. But first of all, we'll take a quick look at the pronouns again. Ich, du, sie, es. The ich and the du we saw in the dialogue. Ich, that's I in English. Du, that's you in English. And here we've decided to add the third person singular as well. And there are three different forms for this third person singular. Sie, es. And they correspond to the English he, she, it. So he, the male form, sie, she, the feminine form, and then lastly es, that's the English it, and that's the neutral form. Now let's add kommen to the mix here, shall we? And here you'll see the conjugated forms, also called the finite forms of the verb kommen for the singular. Ich komme, so that's I come. Du kommst, you come. And then sie, es kommt, he, she, it comes. So one more time. Ich komme, du kommst, sie, es kommt. There are also plural forms for these pronouns and plural forms for the verb conjugation, but we won't cover this in this lecture, but it'll be an important topic very, very soon. Let's go back to the singular forms now. At the end of the verb forms, you can find the endings. So, ich komme. The last letter here, the E, is the signal ending for the first person singular, which means that you will get the same ending, you will get the E for many verbs, for most verbs. So E is the signal ending for the first person singular. And then similarly, ST, du kommst, the ST here is the signal ending for the second person singular. And then lastly, you get the T, which is the signal ending for the third person singular. Ich komme, du kommst, sie kommt. Now it's time for some more examples using the same verb kommen. Beispiele, examples. Ich komme aus Hamburg. I come from or I'm from Hamburg. It's a bit more common in English to say I am from a place, but it's more common in German to say I come from a place. So, ich komme aus Hamburg. I'm from Hamburg. Du kommst aus Berlin. You're from Berlin. Sie kommt aus Paris. The sie, remember, is the third person singular, but it's the feminine form. So it must be a girl or a woman or your aunt, etc. Sie kommt aus Paris. She's from Paris. Ich komme aus Deutschland. I'm from Germany. Er kommt aus China. He's from China. Du kommst aus England. You're from England. And this completes the lecture. I'll see you very soon in the next lecture, where we'll be covering the next verb, which is heißen. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. We'll be covering the next verb, which is heißen, in this lecture. In the dialogue, we came across this sentence. Stephanie said, "Hallo, ich heiße Stephanie." And this translates to, "Hello, my name is Stephanie." So heißen is a bit tricky to translate. It's used for the name, but there's not a real English equivalent. Maybe to be called. I'm called Stephanie. But the best translation, again, is just to use the noun name. My name is, your name is, his name is, etc. Let's take a look at the conjugation again. The infinitive is heißen. Most infinitives, let's say 99.9% of the infinitives in German, end in en, by the way. The last one was kommen, and this one is heißen. We talked about the fourth letter here. It's the special German character that English doesn't have, and it's the SZ. Whenever you see this, don't panic. Just treat it like an S sound. Heißen. Let's take a look at the conjugation now. Ich heiße, du heißt, and sie es heißt. So my name is, your name is, and then his name is, her name is, and its name is, I guess. For animals, that could be an option. You might notice that we've decided to add this little warning symbol here. Now, why is that? Remember how we talked about the signal endings, the typical endings that most verbs have? Ich heiße gets the E at the end. For the second person, du heißt, so normally, according to the rules, we would expect the ST here. In this case, the T is sufficient, the T is enough. Why? Because the fourth letter, the SZ, is already an S. It's a different S, but it still counts as an S. So if the verb stem ends with an S already, like here, then you do not need to add another S. In this case, just add the T, du heißt, and for the third person singular, like always, there is the T, sie es heißt. Let's again take a look at some example sentences. Beispiele, examples. Ich heiße Markus. My name is Markus. Du heißt Maria. Your name is Maria. Ich heiße Herr Müller. My name is Mr. Miller. In more formal situations, people don't use their first names, they use their last name, their surname. Like here, this person is called Mr. Miller or Mr. Müller, so Herr Müller in German. If this was a woman, it would have been Frau Müller. Herr Müller, Mr. Müller, Frau Müller, Mrs. Müller. That's a question that we also saw in the dialogue. Wie heißt du? It translates to what's your name? The wie literally is how. So literally it would be how is your name or how are you called? But in English it's of course what's your name? Now this is a question, by the way, and we will be covering questions in more details in the next lecture, and I will see you there very soon. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this lecture we'll be covering questions. This will be a fairly quick one as this will not be super complicated. Fragen, questions. Wie heißt du? This is a question we saw in the last lecture and also in the dialogue. It translates to what's your name? Now, the question word is on the first position, wie, that's actually how, right? And the verb is on the second position. Before I mentioned that this is one of the most important rules about word order, verb, second position, and this also applies to these types of questions. Now, when I say these types of questions, I'm talking about questions with question words. So far we've seen two. We've seen wie and we've seen woher, where from, coming up in a second. Soon we'll see more question words like, what, when, why, and many, many more. But it's important to know that there will be also questions without question words, and here the verb will not be on the second position but on the first. But more on this in a future lecture very soon. First of all, wie heißt du? What's your name? Verb on the second position because it's a question with a question word, the question word being wie. And then Stephanie can answer, ich heiße Stephanie. Again, verb on the second position. This is a normal sentence, a statement sentence, not a question. Here we always get the verb on the second position. Second example, woher kommst du? Where do you come from? Or where are you from? Again, we get the verb on the second position. It is once more a question with a question word. The question word here is woher, which is where from. Possible answer could be ich komme aus Frankfurt. I'm from Frankfurt. Or ich komme aus Tokio. I come from or I am from Tokyo. That's it for this super quick lecture on questions with question words. I'll see you soon in the next one. Hallo Leute, hello guys, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll talk about pronunciation. The good news is, in German, pronunciation will not be super hard. There are other harder things, in my opinion. German is a relatively phonetic language. What does that mean? It means that the words are more or less pronounced, they're more or less spoken in the same way that they are spelled. Of course, there are some exceptions, there's a couple of things to know here and there, but with a few set of rules, you can actually pronounce every German word without many surprises, unlike English or French. So let's take a look. Aussprache, pronunciation. First of all, we have the E followed by the I. This is like the English smile. So the sound is I, okay? Whenever you have an E followed by an I, like with these two example words, Heißen, Österreich, then the pronunciation will be I. So Heißen, it's the word used for names. Ich heiße Martin. Wie heißt du? And Österreich is the German word for Austria. Österreich. Okay. It's not pronounced A, it's pronounced I. Very, very common mistake. Second tip, we talked about this special letter that we have in German. It's called SZ or scharf S. It resembles a type of B, but it's not a B, it's more like an S. Whenever you see that, just treat it like an S, a voiceless S. So not Z, right? Not the B sound. It's more like an S, more like the sound of a snake, more of a hissing sound. So it's heißen, and the next example would be Straße, which translates to street. Straße, street. This example word, Straße, takes us to the third and last pronunciation tip for today, and that's whenever you have an S and a T at the beginning of a word or at the beginning of a syllable, then it's not pronounced st, it's pronounced sht. So in this case, you need to treat the S like an SH in English, like shell, for example, plus the T, so sht. In this case, we have two examples. The first one is the name Stephanie. Stephanie. And the next example is Straße. Straße, which is again street. If you get ST and it's not at the beginning of a word or a syllable, then it's usually pronounced normally. Normally meaning S plus T, like kommst or Österreich, right? So takeaway here, ST at the beginning of a word will be sht, like here, Stephanie and Straße. We'll have many more lectures on pronunciation here and there to give you more and more tips. These are the first 3 tips. And that's all for now. I'll see you, hopefully, very soon in the next lecture. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next module where you will get the chance to test your knowledge, to see how much you've learned already. And maybe you can also find out where it's a good idea to go back here and there and take a look at certain things again. Because as you know, in language learning, repetition is key. It's super vital that you revise, and it's also super vital that you actually do these exercises. So please trust me on this. Do not skip the exercises. With this said, let's start right off. The first exercise is Schreibe Sätze. Write sentences. So basically, we have a salad of words here. Salad, by salad I mean they are not in the right order. And you have to make German sentences in the correct order with these chaotic lines. So the first one, for example, Österreich, ich, aus, komme. Try to put these 4 words in a correct German sentence. There was one super important rule for the word order, and that was verb second position. But I won't help you anymore. I want you to pause the video now and to actually write them down, or at least make German sentences in your head. And then I'll see you in a couple of seconds to show you the solutions. So I hope you actually took the time, paused the video, and try to do this exercise properly. If you did, congratulations, and I will show you the answers now. The first one is Ich komme aus Österreich. We start off with the subject ich, that's standard, happens not always but quite a lot in German. On the second position, you always get the verb, that's komme, and then it's followed by the preposition aus and then the country Österreich. Ich komme aus Österreich. I'm from Austria. The next one should be easy too. Ich heiße Theo. Again, verb on the second position. My name is Theo. And for the last one, woher kommst du? Where are you from? Or where do you come from? We start off with the question word in these questions, like woher, where from, that's the first word. It's followed by the verb, again on the second position, and then lastly, du. Woher kommst du? It's time for the second exercise. Vervollständige die Sätze. Complete the sentences. This should be self-explanatory. You have some blanks here, you have the beginning of some words, and you have to come up with the rest of the words. Again, I want you to pause the video now, and I'll see you when you're done with these two sentences. Right, let's take a look at the answers again. The first one is Willkommen in Hamburg. Mind the spelling here, double L and double M. Willkommen in Hamburg. Welcome to Hamburg. And for the second sentence, it's obviously Wie heißt du? The question word wie, followed by the verb, second position, and then the subject du. Wie heißt du? What's your name? So, how were these first two exercises? I'm sure you did well, and if you did, congratulations. I'll see you in the next lecture. If you didn't do so well, please do not worry. You know, people start from different starting places. Some people have already some previous knowledge and they start maybe here, and you might start from the very bottom, from zero. If that's the case, do not feel bad or discouraged. Just keep going, revise certain sections and lectures here and there, and you'll be fine very soon, I promise. So, welcome to this last lecture in the current section. In this last lecture, we always do a quick recap on the most important things that you have learned in this section. We go through these things rather quickly because it's a video course. You can also always go back if you need to revise something in more detail. So first of all, we talked about our first two verbs, kommen, to come. Ich komme, du kommst, er, sie, es kommt. The endings are important. I for the first person, st for the second person, and t for the third person. Our second verb was heißen. Ich heiße, du heißt, er, sie, es heißt. We then saw a couple of important things. Wie heißt du? The question word wie is actually how, but it's what's your name here? Wie heißt du? What's your name? And you get the T here as an ending. You would normally get ST, but here there is an S already. That's why the T is enough. For the answer, ich heiße Markus. My name is Markus. It's the first person singular, so here we need the I as an ending. Woher kommst du? Where are you from? Or where do you come from? Woher, where from? That's our second question word. And st, that's the ending for the second person singular. So whenever you see the form du, the verb gets the ending st. Woher kommst du? And then lastly, ich komme aus Berlin. I'm from Berlin. Aus is a local preposition. It means from, and it can be used with places like cities or countries. Now, lastly, we also want to take a look at some phrases and sentences. Willkommen in Berlin, that's welcome to Berlin. Vielen Dank, danke or dankeschön, they all mean the same thing. They mean thank you, basically. Three very common options. You can choose one. You don't have to memorize all three of these right now. Just choose one that you like the most. And then hallo, when you meet someone, hello. Tschüss, when you go away, that's bye. And then bis bald, literally that's until soon. So bis, until, bald, soon. But it means, of course, see you soon. And this last one I want to say to you now as well. Bis bald. I'll see you very soon in the next section. Hey guys, and welcome back to this new section. In this one we'll talk about the apartment of the Müller family. In German, die Wohnung von Familie Müller. And this is what you will learn. The main focus of this section will definitely be on adjectives, so we'll revise the most important adjectives that we've seen so far. And then we'll talk about the things that happen whenever you use adjectives in front of nouns. We then move on to talk about the personal pronouns in the accusative case. We'll talk about the phrase there is, there are. We then talk about reoccurring events. And last but not least, we'll talk about a new separable verb, which is Fernsehen, to watch TV. Okay, I'll see you in the next lecture.
Die Wohnung von Familie Müller. Familie Müller hat eine schöne Wohnung. Sie ist nicht sehr groß, aber sehr gemütlich. Frau Müller liebt große und kleine Pflanzen. Herr Müller kauft oft neue Pflanzen für sie. Herr Müller liebt moderne Technologie, aber Frau Müller kauft selten neue Geräte für ihn. Der Fernseher im Wohnzimmer ist wirklich sehr groß. Abends sehen sie oft zusammen fern. Im Wohnzimmer gibt es auch einen Teppich und viele Bücher. Frau Müller liest sehr gern. Der Esszimmertisch ist auch sehr groß. Hier spielen sie mittwochs oft Karten mit Frau Weber. Frau Weber ist eine sehr sympathische und lustige Nachbarin. Herr und Frau Müller haben auch einen Balkon. Dort sitzen sie oft abends oder am Wochenende zusammen.
Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one we'll do, as always, an analysis and translation of the dialogue. So, the title, Die Wohnung von Familie Müller, should be easy. There's nothing new here. The apartment of the Müller family. Maybe the last two words, they could be interesting. We say them in the other way around. We just say Familie first and then the surname. In English it's the other way around usually. That's a small little detail. Alright, let's go on. Familie Müller hat eine schöne Wohnung. The Müller family has a lovely apartment. Sie ist nicht sehr groß, aber sehr gemütlich. It's not very big, but very cozy. So the sie literally is she. In this case, the English translation, of course, must be it, because the Wohnung is a thing. But it's a feminine noun in German, so you have to refer to it by using the feminine form sie. So it's not very big, but very cozy. Gemütlich is a very nice, positive German word you can use for cozy, like rooms and apartments or a cafe. Also atmosphere, situations, all of these things can be gemütlich. It just means nice and pleasant, gives you a warm feeling. Cozy could be the closest word in English to that. Frau Müller liebt große und kleine Pflanzen. Mrs. Müller loves large and small plants. Herr Müller kauft oft neue Pflanzen für sie. Mr. Müller often buys new plants for her. So a couple of things I want to go through with you together here. So first of all, there is the adjective groß, and it means big or large, in this case big plants. And it comes up again here. So sometimes we just have the adjective groß without anything added to it. Sometimes we have endings. In this case you have the E. This will be the main grammar topic of this current section, And I want to talk about that with you a little bit now. So the main question you might have on your mind right now is, so when do we need to say groß without an ending, and when do we need to say große with the E as an ending, or even different endings? So the short answer is the adjectives in front of nouns, they need to get endings. In the second instance of the adjective groß, it says große und kleine Pflanzen. So große Pflanzen und kleine Pflanzen. In this usage of the adjective in front of nouns, we need endings. Which ones? More on this coming up very soon, in the next lecture, I think. And if that's not the case, if the adjective is not in front of a noun, like in the first instance, sie ist nicht sehr groß, here the adjective groß is not before a noun. In this case, you do not need to worry about endings because there will not be any endings. Another grammar point of this section is the accusative forms of the personal pronouns. The last word here in the first paragraph, Herr Müller kauft oft neue Pflanzen für sie. This is an instance of a personal pronoun in the accusative. The reason is simple. Für, this preposition, requires an accusative case. So für is followed by a noun or a pronoun, but this noun or pronoun needs to be in the accusative case. The good news is some of these personal pronouns will not change, like this one. Sie didn't change. The sie can be the normal case, which is the nominative case, but it can also be, like here, the accusative case. This one doesn't change. In the next paragraph, we'll see the masculine personal pronoun, he, and this one will change. Let's first of all read the second paragraph. Herr Müller liebt moderne Technologie, aber Frau Müller kauft selten neue Geräte für ihn. Mr. Müller loves modern technology, but Mrs. Müller rarely buys new appliances for him. So she loves plants and he buys plants for his wife, but she doesn't buy TVs and phones and tablets for his husband. Of course, these things are more expensive as well. Der Fernseher im Wohnzimmer ist wirklich sehr groß. The TV in the living room is really big. In this case, again, groß doesn't take an ending because it's not in front of a noun. But let's first of all talk about a new verb, lieben. Maybe you've heard this one before. So lieben is basically a stronger version of mögen. So mögen, we've seen this one a couple of times here and there. Mögen is to like. We talk about this in more detail also soon. So mögen is to like and lieben is to love. Herr Müller liebt moderne Technologie, like many guys do. Aber Frau Müller kauft selten neue Geräte für ihn. So, ihn is again an accusative form because after für, which is for, after the preposition für, we always need the accusative case. So, ihn basically is the accusative masculine form of the third person singular. So, the er changes to ihn. But the sie, we've seen that one above, doesn't change for the accusative case. We'll talk about those in more detail as well in this section. In English, these personal pronouns also change a lot, by the way. I, me, he, him, she, her, and so on. It's quite similar in German. All right, let's move on. Abends sehen sie oft zusammen fern. They often watch TV together in the evenings. Im Wohnzimmer gibt es auch einen Teppich und viele Bücher. There is also a carpet and lots of books in the living room. Frau Müller liest sehr gern. Mrs. Müller loves to read. Or she enjoys reading very much. She likes reading very much would be a more literal translation. So this first word here you might recognize as evening. But maybe you've noticed that there is one more letter added to that word because we've seen the word as Abend, der Abend, the evening, or am Abend, in the evening. So why is there this extra S? Basically, we've turned the noun Abend into an adverb. And adverbs are not written with capital initial letters. Here, it must be capitalized because it's the first word of the sentence. If this word was somewhere and on a later position within the sentence, it wouldn't be capitalized. And basically, what this means is it means fast jeden Abend, so almost every evening. You can use these words and you can add an S to them. Now they're not nouns, so don't capitalize them. And now it means not just one specific evening, but, this is a usual thing, a reoccurring event that happens on most evenings. Fast jeden Abend. They usually happen in the evening, but not every single time, of course. In the same sentence, we have this new separable verb as well. Fernsehen, it means to watch TV. As you know, the prefix, in this case it's fern, goes to the end of the sentence. Abends sehen sie oft zusammen fern. They often watch TV together in the evenings. Alright, let's move on to the next paragraph. Der Esszimmertisch ist auch sehr groß. The dining room table is also very large or very big. In English, that's 3 words. Dining room table. In German, that's only 1 word. So these long words, they often seem scary, intimidating for German learners who are just, beginning to learn the language. But you get used to these words because the more nouns, the more words you learn, the more you will recognize these nouns in longer words. So es is actually, it comes from the verb essen, to eat, and then Zimmer is the noun for room. So Esszimmer is a noun we've seen before, maybe you remember that. Dining room, das Esszimmer. And now there's a third element, and that's Tisch. And der Tisch is also a noun that you know well by now, it's table. So you can even make the word Esszimmer longer by adding table to that. And in German, these compound nouns are written as 1 word, Esszimmertisch. And they can even be longer, even way longer than this one. Again, it looks scary, but as you move on, you will notice, you will recognize nouns within these long nouns. Hier spielen Sie mittwochs oft Karten mit Frau Weber. They often play cards here with Mrs. Weber on Wednesdays. So mittwochs is the same grammar point that we've talked about above when we talked about the word abends. It's a day normally, it's a noun normally, der Mittwoch, and now it's mittwochs with an S, now it's an adverb. In this case, you don't capitalize the initial letter M, and again, it means on Wednesdays, so almost every Wednesday, fast jeden Mittwoch, or usually on a Wednesday, this happens. Frau Weber ist eine sehr sympathische und lustige Nachbarin. Mrs. Weber is a very friendly and funny neighbor. There are 2 adjectives here, sympathisch, which is like nice or friendly, and lustig, funny. They again come in front of a noun. They come before the noun Nachbarin. In this case, we need endings. In this case, the endings are an I and another I, sympathische und lustige. More on this very soon. Then the last paragraph for this short text. Herr und Frau Müller haben auch einen Balkon. Mr. and Mrs. Müller also have a balcony. Nice, they're lucky. I don't have one. Dort sitzen sie oft abends oder am Wochenende zusammen. They often sit there together in the evenings or at the weekend. So this word, we've seen it only once or twice before. Zusammen, it means together. The opposite is allein, which is the English word alone, of course. Dort sitzen sie oft abends oder am Wochenende zusammen. It seems like they have a nice life together and a nice relationship. Okay, that's it for the text analysis and translation. I'll see you in the next lecture. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one, we'll talk about adjectives. So we've seen quite a few adjectives so far in our texts and in our dialogues. And in this lecture, we'll just do a quick recap on the most important adjectives that we've seen thus far. So many of these sentences or phrases will sound familiar to you. Stefanie ist neu in Hamburg. That was, I think, one of the first adjectives we've seen, maybe even the first one. And this is new. Stefanie is new in Hamburg. One day you can maybe say, I am new in Germany. Ich bin neu in Deutschland. If you don't live in Germany already. And if you plan to move there one day. Stefanis Wohnung ist sehr klein, aber sehr schön. Stefani's apartment is very small, but very nice. So klein, small, schön, nice, beautiful, pretty. Das Bett ist sehr groß und sehr schön. The bed is very big and very nice. Schön dich zu sehen or schön Sie zu sehen. Of course, if it's informal, schön dich zu sehen. And if it's formal, schön Sie zu sehen. These two forms are also accusative pronoun forms, and we'll cover them in this section very soon. So again, nice to see you. Either you informal or you formal. Er ist müde und schläft jetzt. In this text, in this dialogue, the person was talking about the dog, Bello. Er ist müde und schläft jetzt. He is tired and he's sleeping now. Er ist wirklich sehr klein. He is really very small. Bello, that's the name of the dog. Bello ist sehr klein und er ist auch sehr lieb und sehr intelligent. Bello is very small and he's also very kind. You know, lieb is like someone is nice and friendly or kind. In this context of a dog, it just means he's a good dog, he doesn't bite, he's not dangerous. Und er ist auch sehr lieb and he's very kind und sehr intelligent and very intelligent. And you can see many instances where we intensify the adjective by using the word sehr, very, or also the word wirklich, really. And you can also use the two words together. Like in the second last example, er ist wirklich sehr klein. He is really very small. So you can combine wirklich and sehr, just like in English. Really very small. Okay, on the next page, some more examples. Ich finde Stefanie sehr nett und sehr schön. I find Stefanie very nice and very pretty, very beautiful. So nett, once again, that's nice, friendly, also kind. And schön, of course, beautiful. Theo ist verliebt. Oh, Theo is in love. That's another adjective that we've seen. Wir können den Park besuchen, denn das Wetter ist schön. We can visit the park because the weather is nice. Once again, the adjective schön here. Der Park ist wunderbar am Morgen. The park is wonderful in the morning. Die Arbeit ist meistens interessant und die Kollegen sind nett. The work or the job is mostly interesting and the colleagues are nice, they're friendly, they're kind. Okay, on these two slides, we've always seen the easier usage of adjectives. By easier, I mean adjectives not in front of nouns, okay? In some of these sentences, we do have nouns, like der Park ist wunderbar. There is a noun, der Park, but the adjective wunderbar is not in front of the noun Park. on the first page, again, you can look at the examples here. Again, adjectives here are not in front of the nouns, right? And if you do that, if you want to use adjectives in front of nouns, in this case, they will get endings. It'll be a bit more challenging, and we'll cover that topic in the next lecture. So I hope I'll see you there very soon. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where we'll talk about adjectives in front of nouns. Or in German, Adjektive vor Nomen. So in the last lecture, we revised the most important adjectives we've seen so far, and they were not in front of nouns, so we didn't have to do anything, but now we'll talk about adjectives in front of nouns. And when they occur in front of nouns, we need to give them endings. To give you a first idea, some examples. So for the adjective neu, new, Guten Tag, sind Sie die neue Nachbarin? This sentence, this question should be familiar. And here you can see we have the ending I, neue, neue Nachbarin. Hello or good day, are you the new neighbor? Stefanie mag ihre neue Arbeitsstelle. The same happens here. We added the ending I, neue. Stephanie likes her new job. Then for the adjective alt, which is old, Stefan ist ein alter Freund von Theo. Stefan is an old friend of Theo. Okay, in this case, we didn't get the ending E, we got the ending ER. So you probably guessed it. The right ending, depends on the gender of the noun. So we've prepared the table for you now. It's less scary than it might seem at this point, so please don't worry. First of all, for the definite articles. Because the thing is, the right ending doesn't only depend on the gender, it also depends on the article usage. Do we have the definite article, like here? Abbreviation is def point, or do we have an indefinite article? So let's first of all talk about the usage of the definite article. Der schöne Mann, the beautiful or handsome man. Die schöne Frau, the beautiful woman. Das schöne Kind, the beautiful child. And then for the plural, die schönen Häuser, the beautiful, the pretty houses. So for the three singular forms, masculine, feminine, neutral, singular, for the first three here, it's pretty easy. We always get the ending I. Der schöne Mann, die schöne Frau, das schöne Kind. And for the plural here, you need the ending en, die schönen Häuser. Okay, so far so good. So it's time for some more examples here. Der große Mann dort ist mein Vater. You can also try to translate these sentences by pausing the video before I give you the translation to make this more interactive. The tall man, groß is actually big, but if it's used for people, it doesn't really mean big as in, a heavy weight. It means tall, like you're 180, 190, 2 meters, or 6'5", 7 foot. So, der große Mann dort ist mein Vater. The tall man there or over there is my father. Die kleine Katze hat immer Hunger. So, Hunger haben is to have hunger or to be hungry. So, the small cat, the little cat, is always hungry. Kennst du das große Restaurant in der Stadionstraße? So, kennen, we've seen this here and there. Kennen is to know. Do you know the big restaurant in the Stadionstraße? And for the plural, die netten Kollegen auf der Arbeit helfen gerne. The nice or the friendly, the kind colleagues at work, they like helping. They enjoy helping out. So these are examples where the adjectives are in front of nouns and we are using the definite article. You can see how this is getting a little bit complicated, but with time this will be actually super easy. It'll become second nature to you, and we'll revise these all the time anyway. So now let's talk about the indefinite article. Ein schöner Mann, eine schöne Frau, ein schönes Kind, and schöne Häuser. So they're quite different from the adjective in combination with the definite articles. Apart from the feminine form, they all changed, right? Ein schöner Mann, there is an R here now. Eine schöne Frau, this one didn't change. Adjective schöne, schöne is still the same. It ends in an E. For the neutral, ein schönes Kind, we get an S now for the adjective. And for the plural, we have no N anymore. It's schöne Häuser without the N. So let's again give you some examples first, and then I have some tips and tricks and some rules which make your life a little bit easier, hopefully. Mein Vater ist ein großer Mann. My father is a tall man. Sie hat nur eine kleine Wohnung. She only has a small apartment. Ich kaufe ein kleines Bett. I buy, or I'm going to buy, a small bed. And for the plural, nette Kollegen auf der Arbeit sind wichtig. Wichtig could be a new word, it's important. So, nice colleagues at work are important. And I definitely agree, it's important to have nice, friendly, supportive colleagues. So, these adjective endings, they change according to the gender, masculine, feminine, neutral, or plural, our usual 4 categories, but also they change according to the article usage. Is it a definite or is it the indefinite article? So let's give you some tips and tricks now, shall we? We have some signal endings here, okay? Let's start with the masculine forms. The signal ending here is the R. What does it mean? You can see how we have an R here. The R is either in the article form, der schöne Mann, or the R is in the adjective form. You don't get 2, you just get 1 R. So it's either in the article der. If you use the indefinite article ein, the article form ein doesn't have an R, so now we need to give it an R. Now the suitable place is the adjective, ein schöner Mann. So R is the signal ending for the masculine forms, either in the article or it's to be found in the adjective. For the feminine forms, the signal ending is an E. And the feminine is the easiest one because here you always need 2 E's. One for the article, die schöne or eine schöne Frau. So one for the article, die or eine, and then the second E for the adjective. So feminine, 2 E's. Then for the neutral, the signal ending is the S. And the same thing happens that we saw for the masculine forms. You need 1 S, never 2, just 1 S. It's either in the article, das schöne Kind, or it's in the adjective, ein schönes Kind. And then lastly, let's move on to the plural forms. Here the signal ending is again E, but unlike with the feminine forms, you only get 1 E at the end. It's either in the article, die schönen Häuser, and if you have an E in the article, you need an N for the adjective, die schönen Häuser. And if there is no article in the plural, then the adjective doesn't get an N, then it ends in an E. The E is the signal ending, but you only get 1 E, never 2. So again, the masculine, 1 R, never 2. The feminine, we get an E as the signal ending, and there are always 2 E's. Neutral, always 1 S, never 2. And then plural, again, the ending is the E, but this time only 1 E, never 2 at the end here. And if there's an article, then the adjective gets an N, die schönen Häuser. If this is confusing, it's completely normal. You will come back to this lecture a couple of times, maybe in the next days and weeks ahead of you. And also we'll be seeing many more examples of this. And trust me, I've done this for many years. These things will eventually become easy. It'll just sound right to you. And all of these rules and tricks and signal endings, they're only temporary things that you need, temporary strategies that you can use if they help you. Let's summarize this now. The rules that we've seen for the article and the adjective. Masculine, you always need one R, never two. So don't say something like der schöner Mann. That's wrong, because here we have two R's, we only need one. Above you can see the correct forms. Feminine is the easiest one, in my opinion. You always get E at the end of the article and another E at the end of the adjective, so two E's. Feminine is the only instance where two signal endings are allowed and they're even necessary. You need E plus an E, two E's. For the neutral, similar to the masculine, the signal ending S only occurs once. You always need one S, never two. So never say something like das schönes Haus, because here we have two S endings. Das, the article, and the adjective schönes. That's not grammatically correct German. And for the plural, you always need one E, never two. And if there's an article, die, then you need to add an N to the adjective. So don't say die schöne Häuser. No, the rule is we need to say die schönen Häuser. Okay, I also wanted to mention that all we've done in this lecture is we've talked about the nominative case. We also have different cases, and we talked about the accusative case a little bit. And so very soon we'll talk about the adjectives in the accusative case as well, but no need to worry, because the only thing that will change is the masculine form. It'll change slightly. The other forms won't even change, so there will not be a lot of new things. But keep in mind, our tables here, they only show the nominative case so far. Okay, that's it for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one, we'll talk about the personal pronouns in the accusative case. Personalpronomen im Accusativ. So we talked about the nouns in the accusative case, or rather the articles, der Mann, and it changes to den Mann. And the other forms didn't even change. The feminine, the neutral, and the plural nouns didn't even change, so that was pretty easy. Now for the personal pronouns, a couple of forms will change, some forms will not change. So these are the forms that we've seen 1,000 times so far, the nominative forms. Ich, du, er, sie, es, wir, ihr, sie, sie. Let's take a look now at the accusative forms. The ich changes to mich. The du form changes to dich. Er, sie, es changes to ihn, sie, es. In this line, only the er changes, by the way. The sie, the feminine form, and the es, the neutral form, they stay the same. And for the plural, the wir changes to uns, the ihr changes to euch, and the sie, they don't change at all. They remain the same, sie and sie. So I'll read the new forms once more, a bit more slowly. Mich, dich, ihn, sie, es. Make sure you make the E sound long in ihn. It's not in, that's the preposition, willkommen in Hamburg. This one is not in, this one is ihn with a very long E sound. So ihn, sie, es, and then uns, euch, and sie, sie. It's time for some examples. Kannst du mich heute Abend bitte anrufen? So the separable verb anrufen, like most verbs, it takes the accusative case, and you will need to say mich rather than kannst du ich, that would be wrong. You need to say kannst du mich heute Abend bitte anrufen. Can you call me tonight, please? It's very similar to the English language where the article never changes. The article the always stays the same. Also adjectives, they don't get endings, they stay the same. But these personal pronouns, they also change. You wouldn't say, can you please call I? You would say, can you please call me in English too? So that's quite similar to English here. Ich liebe dich. That's a romantic thing. You can say it to your partner or to your child or to your pet maybe as well. I love you. Ich liebe dich. Wer ist Theo? Ich kenne ihn nicht. Who is Theo? I don't know him. Kennen, again, that's to know facts or also people. Ich kenne ihn nicht. I don't know him. Wo ist die Katze? Ich sehe sie nicht. Where's the cat? I don't see it or I can't see it. Literally, I don't see it. Wo ist mein Handy? Ich kann es nicht finden. Where's my phone? So das Handy could be a new word. Das Handy is a phone, a mobile phone. Wo ist mein Handy? Where is my phone? Ich kann es nicht finden. I cannot find it. So all of these verbs, finden, to find, sehen, to see, kennen, to know, lieben, to love, anrufen, to call, and many, many, many more verbs, most verbs, they will need the accusative case. Alright, it's time for some more examples then. Stefan ruft uns selten an. Stefan rarely calls us. Habt ihr am Wochenende Zeit? Do you have time at the weekend? Kann ich euch besuchen? Can I visit you? Die Kollegen sind unsympathisch. The colleagues are unfriendly. They are not nice. They are not kind. Ich mag sie nicht. I don't like them. That's the verb mögen again, to like someone. This also takes the accusative case like most verbs. Herr Müller, wann kann ich Sie am Wochenende anrufen? Mr. Müller, when can I call you at the weekend? Okay, so this gave you a first idea about the accusative forms of the personal pronouns. And of course, our texts and dialogues from now on, they will contain way more accusative forms, so we can practice in every text and every dialogue as well. That's it for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where we'll talk about the phrase there is or there are. Once again, German is here a little bit easier than English, I guess. Why? Because we don't change it. In German, it's always the same. It's always es gibt. And it doesn't matter whether the noun that follows is in the singular or in the plural. You never change it. There is one thing, though, that might be a little bit tricky, and that's this phrase is followed by the accusative case. Like most verbs, this verb is another one that requires the accusative case. Es gibt. Now, literally, this means it gives, because gibt is a conjugated form of the infinitive geben, and it means to give. So literally, it gives a park in Hamburg, but of course in English the correct translation is there is a park in Hamburg. So I help you a little bit here. Park is a masculine noun. So what would the indefinite article in the masculine be? I'll give you a second to think about this. Maybe you can pause the video if you want to. If you came up with the answer, es gibt einen Park in Hamburg, then congratulations, you got 100 points. So es gibt, always followed by the accusative case. This very useful phrase means there is, there are. Let's do one more in the accusative. This time I want you to come up with the negative article. So, in Stefanis Wohnung gibt es blah 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 Tisch. Of course it means in Stefanis apartment there is no table or there isn't a table. So if you came up with the answer keinen, again, congratulations. And those are the masculine forms, den Tisch, einen Tisch, keinen Tisch. These are the only ones that change. As you remember from the previous section, the feminine, neutral or plural nouns, they don't even change coming from the nominative case. It's the exact same thing. Let's take a look at the feminine now. This noun is feminine in German, die Bar. And just like in English, it's a place where you can meet friends, have some drinks, etc. So there is a bar in the city center or there's a bar downtown. This will of course be es gibt eine Bar im Zentrum. No change, as you can see, from the nominative case to the accusative case. The same happens to the neutral nouns because the word Café is neutral in German. Das Café. So, es gibt ein Café in der Stadionstraße. There's a café in the Stadionstraße. Stadium Street, if you wanted to translate the name of the street. Let's move on to the plural here. As you know, there is no such thing as a plural indefinite article. I'm sure you know this well by now. So take a look at this. Die Stühle, Stühle, or keine Stühle if it's negative. And the same for the accusative, because it doesn't change again. It only changes for the masculine. So here, there is no word that we can use because there is no such thing as an indefinite plural article. So, translation. In der Wohnung gibt es viele Stühle. In the apartment there are lots of chairs. And that's a very useful phrase, es gibt, and I'm sure we'll see it very often from now on. The only thing to remember is that it's always followed by the accusative case. Alright, that's it for this lecture. I will see you in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where we'll talk about reoccurring events. Wiederkehrende Ereignisse. So for this lecture, I'll just show you the examples first, and then we'll talk about the one or two things that you need to know from a grammatical point of view. This will be fairly easy in a fairly short lecture as well. So, morgens ist Stefanie immer sehr müde. In the morning, or in the mornings, Stephanie is always very tired. Nachmittags trinkt Stefan oft einen Kräutertee. In the afternoon, or maybe in the afternoons, Stefan often drinks a herbal tea, or maybe some herbal tea. Frau Müller ruft abends oft ihre Eltern an. Mrs. Müller often calls her parents in the evening, or maybe in the evenings. Mittwochs spielt Theo Fußball. On a Wednesday, Theo plays football, or maybe on Wednesdays, Theo plays football. Herr Müller trinkt sonntags oft Bier. Herr Müller often drinks beer on a Sunday. So let's talk about one or two grammar things you need to know. We talked about this briefly when we did the analysis of the text. So basically, these might look a bit like plural words, like in English, maybe on Wednesdays or on Sundays, but this is not plural in German. It just looks like the plural. So this is not plural. Actually, they are not even nouns anymore. By adding the S to these words, you turn them into adverbs. And adverbs are a different kind of grammatical category. They don't have articles, they don't have a gender, they don't have plural forms. But all you have to know is that you can add the s to these words, and then it means it's a reoccurring event. This thing happens every morning or every Wednesday. Maybe not every, but most mornings or most Wednesdays. It happens usually in the morning. It usually happens on a Wednesday, something like that. So all you have to do is add the S, and then the first letter is now not capitalized anymore. It's now written with a lowercase initial letter because these are not nouns anymore. In 3 examples here, it's the first word of the sentence, and in this case, of course, it's written with a capital initial letter, but usually, if it's within the sentence, definitely lowercase. Like the 3rd example, abends, and the last example, sonntags. So, to recap, you can do that. You can add the S to words like days of the week, Montag, Dienstag, Mittwoch, Donnerstag, Freitag, Samstag, Sonntag. And also you can add the S to parts of the day. Der Morgen, der Mittag, der Nachmittag, der Abend, and die Nacht. And if you do that, if you add the S, then it indicates that this is a reoccurring event. You can't do it to other words though. For example, am Wochenende, here you cannot say Wochenendes. It doesn't work. It works with days of the week and parts of the day. Don't use this strategy for other nouns. Alright, that's it for this relatively short lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one we'll cover another separable verb, and it's Fernsehen. We saw this sentence in the text, abends sehen sie oft zusammen fern. And it translates, in the evening or in the evenings, they often watch TV together. So sehen and then fern, that's a separable verb. And the infinitive you can see on the screen now. The infinitive is Fernsehen. For the first time, we are seeing a verb now that is both irregular and separable. So these things can happen at the same time. It's separable, indicated by this little line between the prefix fern and the verb stem sehen. And then it's also irregular, indicated by the vowel change. You can see the E and then the arrow pointing to the IE. So this means that it's also irregular. This, of course, applies to the stem of the verb, to the sehen part. The sehen part is also used alone, as a standalone verb, and it means to see. Fern literally means far, and sehen means see. So Fernsehen literally means to far see, or to see far. So you can see things in the television set that were recorded somewhere far away, in a faraway region or country. Actually, television is the same root. It's the Greek word for far away. Tele and then vision, see, Latin root. Anyway, let's not get lost in these details now. Let's do the conjugation of this separable and irregular verb. Ich sehe fern, du siehst fern, sie es sieht fern, wir sehen fern, ihr seht fern, and sie sehen fern. The vowel change, of course, applies to the second person singular and the third person singular. Du siehst fern, sie es sieht fern. And the separable characteristic applies to every single form, of course. It's time for some examples now. Ich sehe selten fern. I rarely watch TV. Wie oft siehst du fern? How often do you watch TV? Er sieht mittwochs fern. He watches TV on a Wednesday. For the plural, wir sehen nicht gern fern. We don't like watching TV. Me neither. Warum seht ihr so viel fern? Why do you watch so much TV? And lastly, for the third person plural, in this case it's the formal you. Sehen Sie gern fern? Do you like or do you enjoy watching TV? As you see, we always try to incorporate words that we've previously covered, the gern, do you like doing something, or selten and oft, the adverbs of frequency, and also the new grammar topic, mittwochs, and so on. Okay, that's it for this relatively short lecture. I'll see you very soon in the next one. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where it's once again time for you to test your German skills. It's time for some Übungen. For this first one, passe die Sätze an. Adapt the sentences. This is also a separable verb, by the way. Passe die Sätze an. It's imperative, which we haven't covered yet, but it's a separable verb. The infinitive is anpassen. Anyway, it means adapt the sentences, and you might remember this exercise format from section 6. It was the big, exercise revision section, and we did something similar there. So what you have to do is you have to change these elements as shown on the right-hand side. And for example, you change Frau to Kind, and this will have some grammar implications. I'll give you a quick tip for this first one. Die Frau is a feminine noun, whereas Kind is neutral. This will have some, implications for certain forms. So I won't help you anymore. I want this to be interesting and challenging. So please pause the video now, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at the first sentence. If we change Frau to Kind, we have to change the article and we have to change the adjective form because it's a neutral noun, das Kind. Actually, the adjective doesn't change here because we have the definite article. Das sympathische Kind wohnt in Köln. So we only had to change the article here. For this next one, wo ist das schöne Haus? We're changing das Haus to the plural form Häuser, houses. More grammar tips on the plural forms coming up very soon, by the way. But this is the plural form of das Haus. It's die Häuser. And this will have again some implications for the article and for the adjective ending. So, wo sind die schönen Häuser? And even for the verb form, it's plural now, so we have to change the ist to the sind, to the third person plural. The das we change to the die, that's the plural article. And then for the adjective ending, we need the n, die schönen Häuser. The rule for the plural was, if there is an article, like here, die, then the adjective ends in an n, like here. If there's no article, it would have been schöne Häuser, because we need one n at the end for the plural, either in the article, like here, or in the adjective if there is no article. You get used to this and many more things, trust me. For this next one, der schöne Mann ist mein Kollege. The handsome man is my colleague. And we're changing the definite article der to the indefinite article ein. And in this case, you also change the ending of the adjective. So, if you wrote down ein schöner with the R here, then you got it perfectly right. Ein schöner Mann ist mein Kollege. And for this last one, warum seht ihr gerne fern? We're changing the ihr, the second person plural form, to the du, to the second person singular form. And then it will become warum siehst du gerne fern? So here we have to change the verb form, and I hope you still remembered that sehen or Fernsehen, to watch TV, is a irregular verb. It's separable and also irregular. The E from sehen changes to the IE for the du form and for the sie form, for the second and third person singular. Warum siehst du gerne fern? Why do you like watching TV? Okay, for the second exercise, übersetze die Sätze. This can be quite tricky sometimes, maybe even more so than the first one. So pause the video again. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right, welcome back for this first one. On Fridays, my father visits me. It's a reoccurring event. It happens on, every Friday or most Fridays this happens. So, freitags besucht mein Vater mich. We haven't really talked about these possessive adjectives, mein Vater, but you have seen it here and there. We'll talk about it in more details very soon, of course. Besuchen is a verb, like most verbs. It takes the accusative case. This is why we need mich and not ich at the end here. Okay, and for the second sentence, there is a big restaurant in Stadionstraße. I want to give you one additional tip here. If this was tricky, maybe we haven't covered this noun yet. So, restaurant is a French word, and it's also a word in English and also in German. Same spelling as in English, and this noun is neutral in German. So, das Restaurant. Das Restaurant. The pronunciation at the end here is a bit different and untypical of German. That's because it's a French word, and we've sort of kept the French pronunciation here. So it's neutral, and this means that we need ein großes Restaurant. The neutral signal ending for articles, adjectives is the S. We need one S. Never two, but one we do need. So here, es gibt ein großes Restaurant in der Stadionstraße. This phrase, in der Stadionstraße, we also haven't covered yet the grammar of that. It's a preposition that here takes the dative case. If you didn't get that right, don't worry. You've seen it here and there. Maybe it somehow sounded familiar. If you didn't get this part right, don't worry at all. The next one, on Tuesdays and at the weekend, Theo plays soccer. Dienstags und am Wochenende spielt Theo Fußball. This one was a bit easier, I guess. So dienstags, the reoccurring events, so the noun, this word, this adverb ends in an S. It's not a noun now. And then am Wochenende, here you cannot do the reoccurring event S thing. So we have to say dienstags und am Wochenende. That's a long position 1 and it's followed by the position 2, spielt. Dienstags und am Wochenende spielt Theo Fußball. Alright, for the last one, I don't know her and I don't know him either. Ich kenne sie nicht und ich kenne ihn auch nicht. So this was a little bit challenging, I guess. First of all, kennen, we haven't talked about it in detail yet, but it means to know. It's come up here and there. Like most verbs, it requires the accusative case. So, sie, I don't know her. The sie doesn't even change, but the masculine form does change. Rather than we need ihn. Und ich kenne ihn auch nicht. The second challenge here was definitely the word order. Auch nicht. It goes to the end here. Und ich kenne ihn auch nicht. Okay, that's it for the exercises for this section. I'll see you hopefully soon in the next section. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one, we'll do a quick recap on the most important things that you've learned in this section. So the main focus from a grammatical point of view was definitely the adjectives. So adjectives can appear like here, not in front of nouns, and in this case they do not get any endings. As you can see here, in this scenario, they mostly occur after the verb sein, that's the verb to be, and also a handful of other verbs like finden, I find her beautiful, ich finde sie schön, but mostly after the verb sein. And in this case, there is no need to change anything. Don't give it any endings, not necessary. But sometimes they do occur in front of nouns, like here, der schöne Mann, die schöne Frau, das schöne Kind, die schönen Häuser. And now they do need endings. And the endings even change a little bit if you use them after a indefinite article. Like here, ein schöner Mann with the R, eine schöne Frau, here nothing changes, ein schönes Kind with the S, and schöne Häuser. This can be quite tricky and confusing at first, but you'll get used to it, just trust me. Here there's some examples. You can pause the video if you want to look at them again. You can also go back to the lecture if you need a reminder on all the details here. But for now, I just want to leave you with the signal endings and the rules. R for masculine, E, that's the signal ending for the feminine, S for the neutral, and E for the plural. These signal endings usually appear just once. Apart from the feminine, here you need the E twice every single time. So for the masculine, you only need one R, either in the article or in the adjective. Feminine, you need two E's. Die schöne Frau, eine schöne Frau. For the neutral, you need one S, never two. And for the plural, it was a bit different. The plural, if there is an article, then the adjective needs an N. Die schönen Häuser. If there is no article, then there is no N. Schöne Häuser. Okay. We also talked about the personal pronouns in the accusative case. Mich, dich, ihn, sie, es. And for the plural, uns, euch, and sie, sie. So when do we need these accusative forms? You need them after many verbs and also after certain prepositions. We've seen the preposition für, for example, right? Für dich, für mich, for you, for me. But also after most verbs that we've seen so far. For example, the second one, ich liebe dich, I love you. Then we also talked about the phrase es gibt. Also here you need the accusative case. And this is only relevant for the masculine nouns. Es gibt einen Park. Here you have to change something. There is a park in Hamburg. You don't even have to change anything if it's a feminine noun, like here. Es gibt eine Bar im Zentrum. Or whether it's a neutral noun. Also here, no change necessary. Es gibt ein Café in der Stadionstraße. There's a cafe in Stadionstraße. And also for the plural, you know this, there is no such word anyway. There is nothing to do for you because there is no indefinite plural article in the first place. Okay, we then talked about these reoccurring events. You can just add an S to days of the week and to parts of the day, like morgens in the mornings, like most mornings, or montags, like on Mondays, most Mondays. Now they're not nouns anymore. Now they're adverbs, so they're written with the initial lowercase letter. Small detail here. We also talked about the verb Fernsehen. Fernsehen is both separable and also irregular. So this is the conjugation. Don't forget about the vowel change for the second person singular, du siehst fern, and for the third person singular, sie, es sieht fern. And the verb Fernsehen, as you know, it means to watch TV. So you can either go watch TV now, du kannst jetzt Fernsehen, or you can continue with the next section. I hope I see you there, either now or very soon. Bye bye for now. Hey guys, and welcome back to this new section. I hope you're doing great today. The new title is Keine Lust und keine Zeit. No desire and no time. And this is what you will learn. We'll talk about the plural forms of nouns. We then talk about the words much and little, viel and wenig. We'll talk about a new modal verb, and that's möchten. We then move on to talk about kein, when to use that negation word, versus nicht, the other negation word. We'll talk about the time again. And then, last but not least, we'll cover the alphabet in German. And I'll see you in the next lecture.
Keine Lust und keine Zeit.
Hallo, Schatz. Wie war dein Tag heute?
Gut. Und wie geht's dir?
Es geht so. Ich habe immer viel Stress. Viele Projekte. Viele E-Mails. Viele Anrufe. Ich möchte heute Abend nicht kochen. Und du? Hast du Lust?
Nein, ich habe heute keine Lust und keine Zeit. Wir können in ein Restaurant gehen.
Das ist eine gute Idee. Wir können in die Pizzeria da Marco gehen. Das ist dein Lieblingsrestaurant.
Sehr gerne. Die Lasagne dort schmeckt wirklich super und die Pizzen auch. Ich rufe an und reserviere einen Tisch für uns.
Pizzeria da Marco? Was kann ich für Sie tun?
Hallo, ich möchte einen Tisch für heute Abend um 7:45 reservieren.
Für wie viele Personen?
Für 2 Personen.
Wie heißen Sie?
Ich heiße Klaus Müller. Ich buchstabiere Klausmüller.
Vielen Dank und bis später.
Hello Leute, hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture where we'll once again talk about the dialogue, we'll translate it and analyze it. So the title here is Keine Lust und keine Zeit. The literal translation might be something like no desire and no time, or maybe even no lust and no time. But the English word lust has a sort of, well, sexual meaning. It doesn't have this meaning in German. Lust just means that you feel like doing something. That's the most common usage, the most common meaning. So you don't feel like doing something. You don't have the desire to do something. So someone doesn't want to do something and doesn't have time to do that. And we'll see in the dialogue what that is. It's about cooking, right? So we'll talk about Lust again at the bottom of the page. For now, it means that you don't want to do something. So, Frau Müller starts by saying, Hallo Schatz, wie war dein Tag heute? Hello darling. So Schatz is a masculine noun, der Schatz. It literally means treasure, you know, like a box full of gold that some pirates can find or steal maybe. So that's the first meaning. The second meaning is you can use it for your child or for your partner, for someone you love basically. Hallo Schatz, wie war dein Tag heute? How was your day today? So there is a new form here, and that's the past tense. For the first time in our texts and dialogues, we are seeing a past tense form now, and we'll talk about those in more detail, of course. It's the past tense, it's one past tense form of the verb to be. We call this the Präteritum. More on this further on in our course. Herr Müller then goes on to say, Gut, und wie geht's dir? This should be easy, this is all review. Good, and how are you? He's using the full version. He's saying, und wie geht's dir? That's the full version. He could have just said, und dir? So the wie and the geht's is sort of optional here. Then Frau Müller says, es geht so. So. So if someone asks you how you are, how you're feeling, how you're doing, there are a couple of options. And this one means that you're, well, somewhere in between. It's neutral. You're not doing very well, you're not doing great, but you're not miserable either. You're somewhere in between. Do you remember what good and bad means in German? I think you do. So gut is the positive answer here. So wie geht's dir? And you can answer gut or gut, danke, good, thank you. The opposite of gut is schlecht. Schlecht. And in between we have the phrase es geht so. Literally, it goes so. But it means so-so. Okay, not too bad. So-so. Meaning somewhere in between gut and schlecht. She then gives reasons why she's not doing great today. Ich habe immer viel Stress. I always have lots of stress. Viele Projekte, viele E-Mails, viele Anrufe. Lots of projects, lots of emails, lots of phone calls. So here we have the word viel, which we've seen a couple of times. It means much, many, or a lot. Plenty of. There are many English translations for this word. Maybe you've noticed one thing. Sometimes we get endings and sometimes we don't get an ending. Viel Stress, no ending. Viele Projekte, viele E-Mails, viele Anrufe. Here we do have an ending. We have the E. Of course, we'll talk about this within this section in a lecture very soon. So it's coming up. But the very short answer is viel with a singular noun, so an uncountable noun like stress. Then the word viel doesn't get an ending. There's only one stress. You cannot say stresses, right? It's a singular noun. It means that there's no plural form, and in this case we need viel without any ending. If you use it with a countable noun, you use it with the plural form of the noun, viele Projekte, lots of projects, many projects. In this case, it does get an ending, in this case an E. And the last usage we do not see on this slide. It's a verb plus viel, like you work a lot. Du arbeitest viel. In this case, again, there is no ending. So only in front of a plural noun will we get endings. Alright, let's move on. Ich möchte heute Abend nicht kochen. I don't want to cook tonight. So möchten is a new modal verb. We'll cover it, of course, with a lecture, with an entire lecture dedicated to this new modal verb. It mostly means I would like to do something. Would like to do something. It's similar to want, right? So here, I don't want to cook tonight, because in English, I wouldn't like to cook tonight sounds a bit strange, but mostly it's translated by would like to. As always, we get an infinitive at the end of the sentence with modal verbs. In this case, it's kochen, to cook. So she doesn't want to cook tonight because of the stress that she has. Und du? Literally just and you. In English, it's more common to say, what about you? And then the last thing on this slide, hast du Lust? Here we have the word Lust again. So again, lust does exist in English. It has a sexual meaning. In German, it most of the time doesn't have this meaning. It just means like you're down for something, or you're up for something, or you feel like doing something. So hast du Lust? Do you feel like it? So do you feel like cooking? So the phrase is Lust haben, or if it's a negated form, then keine Lust haben. In this case, there's the negation word keine. And then it of course means that you are not up for something. You do not feel like doing something. Then on the second page, Herr Müller replies, Nein, ich habe heute keine Lust und keine Zeit. So he feels a bit stressed too, maybe. He doesn't want to. No, I don't feel like it today. And I don't have time. Ich habe heute keine Lust und keine Zeit. So Zeit haben, to have time. Lust haben, to feel like doing something. We're negating nouns here, Lust and Zeit, and this is why we need the negative article kein, or in this case keine, because they're feminine nouns. Die Lust and die Zeit. Wir können in ein Restaurant gehen. We can go to a restaurant. Yeah, that's a good idea. When you feel stressed and you don't have time, why not just go out and get dinner in a restaurant? Frau Müller says, das ist eine gute Idee. That's a good idea. Wir können in die Pizzeria da Marco gehen. Das ist dein Lieblingsrestaurant. So she says, that's a good idea. We can go to Pizzeria da Marco. It's an Italian place, as you can tell. Then she says, das ist dein Lieblingsrestaurant. That's your favorite restaurant. So this is a new word. Lieblings is not something you can use on its own. It's always the first part of a compound noun, so of a two-element noun. In this case, it means favorite restaurant. So, Lieblingsrestaurant. Das ist dein Lieblingsrestaurant. That's your favorite restaurant. Of course, you can say something like, favorite city, Lieblingsstadt. Or favorite park, Lieblingspark. So just put the word or the part Lieblings in front of another noun. And as always, these things are written as one word in German. We call them compound noun, not two words like in English. Herr Müller then says, sehr gerne, with great pleasure. So gern or gerne, the final E is optional. We've seen it always with verbs so far. Ich lerne gern Deutsch. I like learning German. I enjoy learning German. Ich spiele gern Fußball. I like or I enjoy playing football. But sometimes we just use it on its own. So you can just say gerne on its own. Or, to make it more intense, sehr gerne, to make it a bit stronger, to make it more emphatic. And that's what you can use after someone suggests something to you. So Frau Müller says, we can do this, we can go to the restaurant, and Herr Müller says, sehr gerne. It means he agrees with it. With great pleasure is the literal, maybe not ideal translation here. He then says, die Lasagne dort schmeckt wirklich super und die Pizzen auch. The lasagna there tastes really good and the pizzas too. So there's a new verb here, it's schmecken, and it's a regular verb, so it doesn't get this sad face. So if you don't see the sad face from now on, it just means that it's a regular verb and the endings are regular endings, so no surprises there, and also there is no vowel change or anything like that. Schmecken is something we use in the third person anyway, like something tastes good, something tastes bad. Here, the lasagna tastes super or it tastes really good. So in this usage, we use schmecken always with an adjective. He finally says, ich rufe an und reserviere einen Tisch für uns. I will call and reserve a table for us. So reservieren, that's to reserve, and like most verbs, we need an accusative case, and since Tisch is masculine, we get the ending einen Tisch. And the word uns, we covered in the last section, I think, it's the accusative object form of wir. So like in English, we and then us. In German, it's wir and then uns, für uns, for us. All right, let's move on then. Now we have a new person, Kellner, and that's a job, it's a profession, and it means waiter. So Herr Müller is calling now, he's calling the restaurant and he's talking to the waiter on the phone in order to reserve a table. So the waiter says, Pizzeria da Marco, was kann ich für Sie tun? Pizzeria da Marco, what can I do for you? Herr Müller says, hallo, ich möchte einen Tisch für heute Abend um 7:45 reservieren. Hello, I would like to reserve a table for tonight at 7:45. So we have the new modal verb möchten again, and like I previously said, it's mostly translated by would like to, like here. Ich möchte reservieren, I would like to reserve. We also have the time here. The time is at 7:45. And that will be also a big grammar topic in this current section, so that's coming up as well. 7:45, at 7:45. The Kellner, the waiter, says, für wie viele Personen? For how many people? Herr Müller says, für 2 Personen, for 2 people. Kellner, wie heißen Sie? What's your name? Then let's move on. Herr Müller then says, Ich heiße Klaus Müller. My name is Klaus Müller. Ich buchstabiere. I will spell it. So, buchstabieren, that's a new verb. It's regular, so it doesn't need the sad face. It means to spell. It actually comes from the noun, der Buchstabe, and that means letter. Not the letter that you can write to your friend or to your uncle. It means letter as in A, B, C, D, E, obviously. So buchstabieren is to spell, and the noun der Buchstabe is letter. And of course, you guessed it, we'll talk about the German alphabet also very soon in this current section. So now he's spelling his name, K-L-A-U-S-M-U-L-L-E-R. To be honest, this name you probably wouldn't need to spell because it's a very, 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 very common, extremely common German name. Both his first name, Klaus, and his surname, his second name, Müller, they are both very, very common names. This name he wouldn't need to spell, probably, but your name you might need to spell, or also my surname is not a German name. I have to spell my name as well in Germany, quite a lot. And then in the last line, the Kellner, the waiter, says, Vielen Dank und bis später. Many thanks and see you later. Okay, that's it for the dialogue analysis and translation. I'll see you in the next lecture. I think it's so cool that you want to learn the German language. Thanks for that. Also, thank you so much for choosing our course. If you want to help us out, please consider giving us a 5-star review here on Udemy. This will help us out a lot. Thanks so much in advance. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture. In this one we'll talk about the German alphabet. Das Alphabet. A, like the word aber, it means but. B, as in the word Brot, bread. C, as in the word Kaffee, cafe. D, as in Danke, thank you. E, as in Essen, to eat. F, as in fahren, to go or to drive. G, as in gut, or it means good. H, as in house, it means house, obviously. I, as in the word immer, always. J, ja, yes. K, as in the word Katze, cat. L, as in the word lernen, to learn. M, as in the word Mutter, mother. N, as in the word Name, so that's name in English. O, as in the word oder, it means or. P, as in the word park, park. Q, like the word quiz, it means quiz. R, as in the word Rose, a rose. S, as in the word Sonne, that's sun. T, as in the word Tisch, a table. U, as in the word Uhr, clock. It can also mean watch, by the way. V, as in the word viel, a lot, much, many. W, as in the word Wasser, water. X, as in the word xylophone, xylophone. Y, as in the word yoga, yoga. Z, as in the word Zimmer, and that's room. But we're not done yet. You know why? There'll be 4 more. We have the 4 special characters, the 4 special letters in German. Umlaute, first of all, like ähnlich, it means similar. Ö, as in Österreich, Austria. And also Ü, this one means Übung, exercise. Those are the 3 umlauts that we have in German. And then there's one last special letter. You know which one it's coming. It's the SZ. And there is no word that begins with SZ, so we had to pick another word. Like heiß, this one means hot. like hot weather, not hot as in food. For all of these, we've put the capital letter, but this last one, the SZ, doesn't have a capital letter. That's why we had to choose, that's why we put it in a lowercase version. There is no uppercase version. And again, these last four are the special characters that you might not have in your language. So let me go through the alphabet one more time. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And then the four special characters Ä, Ö, Ü, and SZ. So I think it's way more important to know how these letters are pronounced within words, which is what we've been doing all the time. And reading the alphabet like this is quite different because some of these letters are pronounced in a different way, and you will actually not need this so much, in my opinion, unless you have to spell things. So the only use case for this is if you want to spell your name, then this might be important. I don't think it's the most important thing for most people starting out, and that's why we've decided to put it in this section, not in the previous section. If that's important to you, then keep coming back to it and keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hey guys, and welcome back. It's almost the end of the section, so you know what time it is. It's time for some exercises again. Let's see. Übungen. For this first one, we want you to write sentences, Schreibesätze. As always, please pause the video, do your homework, and then I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Alright, for this first one, the answer is Ich möchte einen Tisch für heute Abend reservieren. I would like to reserve or to book a table for tonight. There are some other alternatives with the word order, you know. You could start by saying Für heute Abend möchte ich einen Tisch reservieren. That's also fine. Or also Ich möchte für heute Abend einen Tisch reservieren. The most important things are möchte on the second position, I hope you did that, and reservieren, the infinitive that comes on the last position when used with a modal verb like here, möchten. Okay, for the second one, wie viel Uhr, that's a phrase that you know quite well by now, what time, at what time. Wie viel Uhr gehen wir ins Restaurant? Wie viel Uhr gehen wir ins Restaurant? So what time are we going to the restaurant? And here there are no other options for the word order. The question word is a pretty long element here. Wie viel Uhr? That's the question word. Question words, I guess here. 4 words. And then the position 2, right after that, is the verb, gehen, then the subject, wir, and then ins Restaurant. For the next one, wir gehen 7:45. Wir gehen 7:45. We are going at 7:45. So 19:45 would be the formal version. We could say here 7:45 gehen wir. You could start with the time, definitely. 7:45 gehen wir. That's an alternative here. For this fourth one, möchte heute nicht ausgehen. He doesn't want to go out today. He wouldn't like to go out today. Here we could start with a time. That's quite common too. So also, heute möchte nicht ausgehen. That's also a good option here. If you put the word nicht, the negation word nicht, before heute, that would be also okay. Möchte nicht heute ausgehen. That would sound a bit like he doesn't want to go out tonight, but he wants to go out next week or tomorrow. That's also an option. But the normal word order would be putting nicht in front of the infinitive, in front of ausgehen. If the last position is reserved, like here it's reserved for the infinitive, then the normal position for nicht is the second last position. That's the standard version, but you could put it in front of other words if you want to negate specifically these words. Okay, for the second exercise, korrigiere die Sätze, correct the sentences. As always, I want you to pause the video and you can find the mistakes first, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Alright, so let me highlight the problematic areas now. You can see them in red now. These are the areas, the mistakes. And you can, if you need to, pause the video again to try and correct these mistakes. Alright, welcome back, and let me show you the corrected sentences now. For this first one, wie war dein Tag heute? There are two mistakes here. First of all, in English it's was. How was your day? But in German, English word was, the past tense form of the verb to be is war. We only saw this briefly in the dialogue, and we'll talk about it in detail soon, of course. But the correct word is war, with an R at the end. The word was, of course, does exist in German. It's the question word. In English, it's what. So careful here. Second mistake here, Tag is masculine, der Tag. So you wouldn't get deine Tag, you would get dein Tag. I know we haven't talked about these possessive adjectives yet. It's coming up very soon. But we thought you might have understood this without even knowing that you know, because the E is the ending for the feminine forms, the same as, with the article eine, indefinite article eine, or the negative article keine, and the same will happen to the possessive adjectives. So no E here. I'm sure you got this one right. And the next corrected sentence is wir können heute Abend in die Pizzeria gehen. So above you can see the infinitive gehen on a wrong position. In combination with modal verbs, here wir können, that's a modal verb, we need the infinitive on the last position. So gehen. At the end here. Next one. Ich habe heute nicht viel Zeit. We talked about the adjective words viel and wenig. They're a bit strange. Unlike other adjectives, they do not get endings when used in front of a singular noun. And Zeit, it means time, is an uncountable noun. It's a singular form here. So here you don't say, I don't have lots of times. You say, I don't have much time, So it's singular, and in this case, there is no ending. It's just viel Zeit without the E. And for the last sentence, ich habe nicht Lust ins Kino zu gehen. It doesn't sound super wrong. Maybe in spoken, super informal German you could say that. But usually we say, ich habe keine Lust ins Kino zu gehen. So Lust haben, you want to do something. And negative version is keine Lust haben. It's a noun, Lust, and to negate the noun we need the word kein. In this case, keine, because Lust is feminine, die Lust. This last one was a bit advanced, I know. If you got this one wrong, then don't worry. Also the phrase to feel like doing something in German, that's Lust haben, etwas zu tun. Lust haben, ins Kino zu gehen. Or here, negative, ich habe keine Lust, ins Kino zu gehen. We haven't learned it yet, I know. It will come up soon, like many other things. That's it for the exercises. I'll see you in the next lecture. Hey guys, and welcome back to this next lecture, in which we'll do a quick recap on all the important things that we've seen in this section. So first of all, let's talk about the general rules for plural endings. We saw that the nouns that end in ER, they're usually masculine, and they do not change for the plural. The nouns stay the same, just the article changes. So der Lehrer, the teacher, and then die Lehrer, the teachers. No endings here for the plural. Another rule was nouns that end in E, they're mostly feminine by the way, they usually get an N as the plural ending, like die Katze, the cat, die Katzen, the cats. Also, many nouns end in IN and they indicate feminine, like female people, like a female friend, a female teacher, like here. These nouns, they always get N-E-N for the plural ending, like die Freundin, a female friend, die Freundinnen, the female friends. And then English words, they usually get an S, the same as French words. And the most important thing here is it's best practice to always learn new nouns together with their article, like the gender, is it der, die, das, and also together with its plural form. These rules will help you, and we'll see more rules further on. And with the rules, you can still get a huge portion of the plural forms automatically right, but there'll be still lots of nouns that don't fall in any of these categories. So it's still the best idea to try to learn new nouns together with their articles and their plural forms. We talked about the words viel and wenig. The most important thing here was that we do not get an ending when these two adjectives are used in front of a singular noun, like viel Stress or wenig Stress, but they do get endings, our usual endings, E for the plural. They get our E ending for the plural if used in front of a plural noun, like viele Anrufe, lots of phone calls, viele Projekte, lots of projects. Okay, we also talked about a new modal verb, and that's möchten. Now, möchten is actually a special form, it's called Konjunktiv 2, don't worry about that, of another modal verb, mögen, coming up very soon. And Konjunktiv 2 just has the implication that our endings here are a bit different. So we get an E for the first person singular, but no T for the third person singular. Other than that, it's actually regular. So the conjugation is ich möchte, du möchtest, er, sie, es möchte, no T, wir möchten, ihr möchtet, sie möchten. And it means to like to do something, like I would like to go out. Ich möchte ausgehen. Okay, we also talked about the negation. You need nicht in most cases, but when used in front of a noun, you need kein. If you want to negate the noun, you need kein. Das ist kein Hund, das ist eine Katze. It's not a dog, it's a cat. Okay? We also talked about time words. Die Sekunde, die Minute, die Stunde, der Tag, and then die Woche, der Monat, das Jahr. We then talked about things like 3:45, 4:15, 10:04, 10:04. And just to do a quick recap, the new forms are: es ist 3:45, es ist 4:45, es ist 4:20, es ist 5:10, es ist 5:05. So 4 means before and nach means after. In this case, it's 10:04, so 2, and it's 4:10. The words to and past when using the time, but usually, more generally, these prepositions mean before and after. So before the meal and after the meal, etc. All right. We then, last but not least, talked about the alphabet. Let's do it one more time. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And the four special letters Ä, Ö, Ü, and SZ. Alright guys, that's it for this section. I'll see you in the next one.